Just across the street from campus,
It's exciting.
there is this small store
1548.
where captains, bats, and spiders live,
If you'd like me to put that on hold for you until you decide whether or not.
surrounded by collectibles and action figures.
Do you want it signed?
Yeah, please.
This doesn't seem like a location for a college class finder,
You know, this I make to my kids, to Raina and Mashika.
but this event is these students' final exam.
This is a culmination of the entire semester of my comics and visual narrative class.
Hello.
They have a final comic, and then they have a final comic book, and those are the things that they're graded on. But their final is this book signing.
So, really? There's a class about comics?
Yeah, it's an art studio course. It's Studio Art 491, comics and visual narrative.
Well, so like, hey, it's a thing you like, and there's a class about it so you can get better, and there's nothing wrong with that. That can only be good.
Focuses on the production of comics, so it's not a literature course, it's not an English course. We're actually making comics.
I draw comics because I like comics, and when I like something, I like to try it myself and figure out how it works.
It's a very cool comic signing where these kids try to sell their own handmade stuff.
I've basically got a bunch of stuff in here. I've got this 2-page artist statement where I basically lay out what I told you about why I'm in this class, why I'm drawing these comics.
So, throughout the semester, students produce a number of comic projects that are combined into these books. Through the production of the comics, they learn things like storytelling, text, and imagery. But why comics?
I love the medium, I grew up with it, and I think it's a really rich medium to work with.
Ryan Claytor's class is here today.
Combines images and text, and you can do pretty much anything with that.
Today, Ryan Claytor's class is coming in with all of their projects for their semester. I think their final project is usually to create an ash can of comics that they made themselves.
So they go from pencils to script to inks to final book, as you see here.
Usually they come out with some really fantastic printing jobs and some very interesting techniques, and it's always exciting to see what they have for sale.
Here's an autobiographical comic I drew about my summer job and how that went horrendously awry. I got thrown in a pond at the end.
And at the end, they compile all of their comics into their own books. And here they are selling them and signing them, doing a bookstore signing at the end of the semester. So this is kind of like their rock star final.
Here you go. Thank you very much.
We don't often think about comic books as a form of art, but the history of comic books runs deep in our culture.
Comics is a medium that's gone back in history a long time. Comics as we know them in America, that has a history about 80 years long, really. But I think that it's a medium just like any other. You know, it includes that visual narrative, that sequential art format.
And a little fictional story about a first date that also goes terribly awry.
And that is what these students get to learn, how to produce an art form that they love, and how to make that art into a form that fans can appreciate.
They get out visual storytelling. They, you know, this combination of image and text is something that our society is working with a lot now. And, you know, we know that people don't learn in just one way. They don't just learn from text. They just don't learn just from visuals or sound or auditory. So it really combines a lot of those things.
For my silent comic, I went a little bit non-traditional and didn't divide it up into pages. I made one very long form thing with 5 simultaneous storylines. So it's like a nice little bonus in the back of the book.
The store starts to get busy with customers, friends, and family stopping by to check out the comics.
Very proud parent of our son Brian, who's going to be graduating this year from Michigan State.
So how do you tell your father that you want to take a class in comic books?
You know, it didn't surprise us at all. I know that's kind of out of the box, the comic book class, but as we were just talking to his instructor a couple minutes ago, Brian's been drawing comics since he was probably 3 years old. So for us, it didn't shock us one bit. Matter of fact, it seemed like a natural.
Many of these students hope to continue on to an art career with places like DC Comics or Marvel Comics, and a class like this gives them the head start to understanding the comics business.
You know, we focus on things like pacing and panelization and panel structure and layout and graphic design and things like that so that people can intuitively read these things. You know, make it that seamless read.
Oh, we wanted to see the culmination of all these kids' hard work and putting their books together, And Brian's was great. We've actually seen, well, obviously we've seen a lot of his work over the years, but it's nice to see the whole class's books. As a matter of fact, we were going to buy, came here with the intent of buying a couple, but we decided to just buy one from everybody because we couldn't choose.
So the student comics are a great success, and it shows that teaching comics at MSU is a super idea.
I can't draw a lick, so for me it would not have been a good class, but obviously for these students here it was well worthwhile. I think it's awesome. They all did a great job.